book dragons, I am here to do my top reads of the year video. Now I'm going to break down how I organize my top reads of the year video and just do a little bit of like how I do things in case you're interested. So I start every year with a free bookshelf, and I'll actually show you because right now it is free. And that is where I put all my top five or my reads that I think possibly might be the end of the year. Any other book that I don't think I'm gonna love, I unhaul. And I do this because a lot of my collection is unread books, but I do have a shelf where I just keep books, either really, really pretty books, books that are 5 stars, or books that I'm pretty sure are gonna make my top reads of the year list. So I have a lot of books here that are not on my top reads, but I want to just explain why I kept them. So I'm going to do the stack of books that I wound up keeping throughout the year that didn't wind up making this list, but I wound up keeping them. And then we'll go through my books that I ranked, and then my top 3 at the very, very end. I do read a wide range of genres. I read a little bit of everything. I will be honest, a lot of these are YA, but I have been branching out in my love. Again, this is just my opinion. So yeah, let's get into the books that I have kept throughout this year. The Murder of Mr. Wickham by Claudia Gray, I did keep because it is signed to me. I did get to meet this author at Comic-Con, and I did want to keep it, so this one is signed to me. I also wound up keeping a copy of Basil and Oregano, which is definitely one of my favorite graphic novels that I read this year. There was a little bit of stiff competition, so it didn't quite make the list, but I also got this at Comic-Con, and I just love the art style. I also kept a copy of The Roughest Draft by Emily Webberly and Austin Sigmund Broca. I really did like this book. If I had to stack it up against the other romances, I don't think it got onto the list, but I do want to collect all these authors' physical books because I have all their YA titles, and I do like their adult books as well. Scales and Sensibility by Stephanie Birch was one of my Italy reads when I was traveling, and I just love dragons. Fourth Wing really set me on a path to find some dragon reads. And this is cute, and I also kickstarted the audiobook, so I will get to listen to that in 2024. Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. I do have another book in the series on my top reads, but I wound up getting this from my friend Sarah. I think she got like a couple of copies, and I just liked this book. It was fun. It was very, very cute. I really do like her writing. This did technically come out this year, but I did put it on my top reads of the year last year, so I felt like it would be unfair to put it on this reads. But this is definitely a top read of the year. I got a finished copy of this one. It is Nightbirds by KJ Armstrong, which I think does not get nearly enough love and attention. Actually, I'm going to put it in that video just to do that, because I'm going to do a video on my TikTok of my top reads. I'm going to include that because it doesn't get nearly enough love and attention. I do love it. Also, Begin Again by Emma Lord. I love Emma Lord. This was a really, really fun read. It didn't quite make the list, but I just had to show it. Also, Rivals by Catherine McGee was my first book of the year that I loved. The last book in the series may have overtaken it a little bit, but I do love this copy a lot, so that's why I'm keeping it. I also have a couple of volumes of Spy Family on here. I have volumes 1 and 2. I don't know what happened to my other volumes. This is the first manga series that really has captured me, so that is why I'm going to keep them, for the moment anyway. Also, Bookshops and Bone Dust by Travis Baldree. I actually haven't read this. You don't know I read this yet, but I did. I liked it. I don't think it was my favorite, but I am keeping it because it matches my other edition, so put that in my wrap-up pile. Also, The Blonde Identity by Allie Carter. I am keeping this. I thought it was a fun listen. I did, but I got it signed, and Allie Carter has wrote some of my favorite series, so I decided to keep this because she wrote it. Or she signed it, actually. And then I have a couple of books by Stephanie Garber. I have my Fairy Loot edition for Curse for True Love, which came all the way. Oh my god, this is such a pretty edition. So pretty. I didn't even look at this, but this is my pretty edition from that book box, so I do have that. And I actually did read this whole series, and then I also have my regular edition from Waterstones, just because I like their covers a lot better than ours. My dog might bust in, I hope she doesn't, but oh my god, I just have to show you this really, really pretty Fairy Loot edition. I was actually really glad that they let people that got book 1 or book 2, I think, get it in pre-order because I didn't want to buy all 3. I don't have book 1 to match, but my other editions look really, really pretty, and I really don't like the US editions. I also wound up keeping a copy of The Whispering Dead by Darcy Coase because I really, really like this cozy horror series, which I have read 2 books by Darcy Coase. You will see her again in another video, but I do have this whole trilogy in paperback, so I'm keeping it. Also, The Forest Grimm by Catherine Purdy was another YA fantasy that I really did love this year. Just didn't quite make the list, but I thought it was a fun fairy tale retelling, and I'm really excited for book 2 in 2024. Also, The Spirit Glass by Ronnie Chosky I really did like it. I just think it got beat out by another Rick Riordan Present books, but I love this one. And I really hope we get more books set in this world because I thought it was a fun foray for Ronnie Chosky. I also have 2 copies of Silver in the Bone by Alex Bracken. This book was a bit of a disappointment. I'm not going to put it on my disappointing reads of the year list, but it was a very, very slow slog, but the ending really, really intrigued me. But I do love Alex. She's like one of my favorite authors, so I do have 2 copies of this, and I think I will like book 2 a little bit more. So yeah, that is my books that I kept throughout the year, just to kind of see where my focus was, what I was loving, what I wasn't loving. And yeah, those are all my read books that I kept. I have a lot of unread books that I kept, obviously, because I hauled them. But yeah, now let's get into the books that are not like my top reads of the year, that are not ranked, and then we'll do my top 3. And these are in no particular order, just mostly like how I read them. So yeah, let's get into it. Last book on my list is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston, and I just love this book. I have been reading Ashley Poston since she put out Geekarello at Quirk, and I just love her books. They have like a heartwarming element to it, but also a bit of magic, which I'm loving. And this book follows 2 characters that they live in the same apartment, but one is 7 years in the past and 1 year is 7 years in the present. And I liked it. I thought it was fun. It also does deal with some harder topics, as Ashley Poston's reads normally do. This one does talk about suicide in it. I just want to mention that. But I loved it. I love the main character. It does take place in the bookish industry. You do see a cameo from the characters from The Dead Romantics, and I just thought it was a fun read. Perfect for early fall. Like, it does have like elements of that. Dead Romantics had to do with ghosts. This had to do with time travel. But I just like the romance, and she's just such like a warm writer. Like, it's reading these books just give me like a quick warm hug, and I'm really happy that I got around to it. I know she's coming out with another adult book this year, and just a couple of YA books from Disney that I haven't read that I want to. But yeah, I just like this. So that was a great early fall read, and I definitely recommend you check her out if you haven't yet, because I really do like her books, and that's why she is on this list. I'm basically just gonna say I love all these books, and that's why. But I want to, if I can give you guys like an articulate reason why, I will tell you. Another romance that I read this year was Hello Stranger by Catherine Zenner. Listen to this from Book of the Month, which is why I don't have a physical copy, so hope you like the picture. This one was just a fun romance as well. It basically follows this main character who's an artist, and she winds up getting hit by a car, and that kind of affects her visual. Like, she can't really see all that well, and she's dealing with face blindness, which is really, really dangerous for an artist. She has this cute dog, and she winds up asking her neighbor to help her with this design competition, and things go from there. I don't want to spoil too much. I think it's a very, very predictable story, but I like love the audiobook. I know that she has wrote a lot of like, I also read The Bodyguard by her this year and did like that really, but this one just edged out a little bit. I really like the character. I really like the conversation about being an artist and the artistic side of the career, and I just really loved it. That's why it's on this list, and I definitely want to read the rom-commers that is coming out this year by this author, because I think I will love it as well. And the next book that I'm going to chat about, this has been my year of finding adult fantasy books that I really, really enjoyed. So I want to shout out Ink Blood Sister Scribe, that I also read this year and really enjoyed. And here's a photo. This was a really like unique why adult fantasy. Like, I liked it. The blurb was not what I was expecting, but basically you follow a couple of characters in this world, and when her father is killed, she realized that his life is not what she thought, and she has to team up with her sister and another man to kind of figure out the secrets her dad's uncovering. I'm really doing a really, really bad job explaining this, but I love this book. I thought it was great. There was such a pretty Waterstone edition that I might try to hunt for if I possibly can, but I loved it. It was like a perfect mix of fantasy and thriller that I really, really liked. It had a lot of main characters, and it had a pretty fleshed out world. It also talked about sister dynamics, and it was a really, really cool magic system, so that is why it is on this list. And the next book we're going to chat about is another Fairy Lou pick, or actually read a lot of Fairy Lou this year. I didn't read as much Owl Crate, which is upsetting, but I really did like The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy by Megan Banham. This is also another like cozy horror-ish book. The reason I say it's cozy horror is because it does have a lot of like horror elements. Like, basically you follow a main character that is like an undertaker, and you follow another character who's a marshal, and they have to kind of work together to solve some elements in their environment, and they want to falling in love. Definitely Hate to More, but like Hate to More in like a fun way. There's a You Got Mail element. There's a couple of animals in here, and I just really liked it. I know that we are getting a companion book, which I'm definitely going to check out in 2024, but this just gave me the cozy vibes. Sort of like this. This was like early fall. This is early fall, but a bit of a darker. So that is why they're probably on this list together. And then the next book we are going to chat about is In the Lives of Puppets by T.J. Kuhn. I actually was not going to read this. I had no desire to read this, and then I saw Lazy Book Lovers chat about it, and I was like, okay, you know what? I have to. It is basically just a really, really cute story about a main character who's a human who lives with his dad, and he has to sort of go on an adventure to save the day. And he winds up falling in love with a robot, and it was just so cute. I mean, it wasn't like, it just, again, T.J. Kuhn writes very, very heartwarming stories, and that was just what this was. People said they found it boring. I just found it heartwarming. Again, you're going to sense a theme. This was a year of stress and anxiety, so all of my heartwarming books are probably going to pop up in this read. But I love T.J. Kuhn's writing style. He also writes a very, very inclusive story with a lot of characters, and I just liked it. I don't read a ton of science fiction unless Amy Kaufman writes it, but this book just really, really worked for me, and I'm excited to read more by this author in the future and see what else he writes. I still have one book I haven't read, which is Under the Whispering Door, which I do want to check out. But yeah, this one worked for me. I like the character dynamics. I love the found family. If you have found family in your story, I am probably going to read it. But yeah, I just like the robots. I like the characters. I like the setting. I like the quest. And I'm just really hopeful for more by this author in the future. And then the next book, sorry, I have to look at my computer, and sometimes it's not where I need it to be. Okay, and then the next book I'm going to chat about is, a fun one, another romance, is Mixed Signals by B.K. Boris, and I love this book. I am always on the hunt for a book series that reminds me of Gilmore Girls, and this one worked. I think everyone loves In the Weeds, which I also loved, but oh my god, Caleb and Layla were adorable. So Caleb works in the town, and Layla's a baker, and they wind up having really, really bad luck when they're dating, so they decide to fake date each other to give themselves tips and tricks, and maybe romance is on the horizon, but oh my god, I love this book. We're getting the final book. We're getting Business Casual this year, and I'll definitely be checking it out. I read this whole series this year. You're going to see her pop up on my favorite authors list because I love her small town romances. There is a bit of steam, I will say that, but it just worked for me. It was a very, very quick and fun read, and I'm excited to see what this author works on next, especially because now they're picked up by a traditional publisher. And then the next book that I think took the universe by storm is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, and I loved this book. This is my holiday edition because my friend borrowed my other edition, but oh my goodness, I love this. I think the characters were pulling me into the story. You don't need a summary. You really do not need a summary. But I just felt like the characters and the dragon elements were really, really fun. The plot I didn't love as much. I thought the plot was great. The ending was really, really fun. So I'm excited to see where book 2 goes. People have been having very, very conflicting reports, but this is my favorite romantasy book that I read this year by far. I just loved it. I loved the dynamics between the characters, the dragons. It was really, really fun. And I'm excited to see what comes next in the series because I tend to have different opinions than everyone else. But I'm really, really like this one and so happy I made this list. Now I just have to go read Iron Flame. And then the next book that we are going to chat about is another audiobook or a book that I read through my ears, and that is Fractured Sky by Catherine Cowles. The final book in the Shattered and Torn series by Catherine Cowles, and this is finally Shiloh's book, and oh my god, I did not think I was going to love this book as much as I love the previous books in the series, especially Shattered Sea, but oh my god, this book so worked for me. It has my favorite trope in contemporary, which is found family, and oh my goodness, I loved it. Shiloh deals with a lot. Shiloh was the one that was kidnapped at the start of this, like many, many years ago, and you kind of follow all her brothers and sisters as they're kind of dealing with the trauma of that, of her being kidnapped. She finally gets her own book, and she has to, come to her own, and she winds up volunteering at a horse ranch, and things sort of go from there. Recently, I read A Little Magic by Lindsay Lanza, which also had a very dramatic relationship between the mother, which just gave me similar vibes, but I really did like the found family in this. And I'm also loving Catherine Cowell's other series that I'm in the middle of reading. This book hit the spot, and that is why it is on this list. Another book that I wound up reading this year and really enjoying, I don't have a physical copy, but I do have like an audiobook and an ebook, is Air Awakens by Elise Kova. I'll attach a photo here. Will tease you, one of my books, my top reads of the year, has elemental magic in it. A couple of them actually do, and I was on the hunt for some elemental magic reads, and I really like this series. It's a 5-book elemental magic series. I will say, sort of like what I was saying, like with Fourth Wing, the plots are a little bit predictable to me, but I just like the characters, and I want to read book 2 because I think it'll be like a quick read. And when I kind of talk, I have another video coming out where I'm going to talk about like 2024 and my plans and my mental mindset and stuff like that. But I feel like this book was just a fun, quick read. I was reading it when I was commuting to go to Comic-Con, so I didn't have enough brain power to like really focus on a very, very heavy fantasy, but I loved it. I like the characters, I like the world, and I'm excited to see what comes next in the series. I just have to get better at reading series, as we will talk about in future videos. The next book I'm going to chat about is another book that I listened to, and that is Shadows of You by Catherine Cowell, and this is the 4th book in her Lost and Found series. I will attach a photo here. This is the book that follows the character I was most intrigued by. I cannot remember her name, but she works at like a town, and she winds up falling for Roan, who is the brother that's accused of murder, because this is like the whole series starts off with a main character, and there's like a lot of characters that are deal with this aftermath of a mass shooting, and he was kind of he was believed to have done it. So he winds up falling for this young woman who has a little daughter, and oh my god, the little daughter dynamics was just so cute. So I love this one. I knew I was gonna love it, and Catherine Cowell is becoming a new favorite romance author of me. I really want to read more romantic suspense, but when I kind of give those a try, they don't always work. So if you have romantic suspense recommendations that are similar to Catherine Cowell's and is not Devney Pevy, please tell me below, because I am on the hunt, especially for audiobooks that I can easily access. Another book that I read and really liked was A Study in Drowning. Sorry, this is like very, very shiny, by Ava Reed. Okay, hold on one second. I wanted to make sure you could see the book. It's just very, very shiny. Here, I'll take this cover off. This is my Owl Crate edition. But I love this book. I said before that I sort of struggle with dark academia stories because I don't feel like the characters are that likable, and you will see that a lot in my worst books of the year. I am very much a character-led reader. If I hate the characters, I'm not going to read your book. So this book had a nice balance of plot elements, but also characters that I enjoyed being in their heads, and I enjoyed this. It basically follows this character, and her dream is to be an architect, but like that is not what women do. So she winds up going to the writing college, and she winds up getting invited to kind of redesign her favorite author's home, and she winds up breeding up with a man who's like a young boy that is like the writer of this. So she's like going to be the architect, she's going to be the writer, and they wind up trying to piece together what is going on in this world, or like in this house. And it was very, very interesting. I gave it 5 stars, and I want to try Ava Reed's adult books, but I want to also see if she writes any more YA because I really did enjoy it. And then the next book that we are going to chat about, sorry, my computer keeps like going in and out, and I'm like having to, okay. So the next book we are going to talk about is one that was on my surprising years of the books of the year list as well, because I was a little bit worried about it. And that is The Brothers Hawthorne by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is the second series set in the Inheritance Game world, and I'll be honest, I was super nervous for this book because it was following 2 new characters. It was a direct sequel to Final Gambit, but I really, really loved it. We got Grayson and Jameson's point of view. And if you had asked me at the start what characters did I love, it was not those 2. It was been Alex and Nash. But I love what Jennifer did with this book. Like, I thought it was really captivating. We still got to see all the other characters, but we also got to dive into these 2 characters, and I grew to love them so much by the end. The Grandest Game is one that I'm definitely going to read in 2024 and has the potential to make my top reads of the year list. But yeah, I really did like this book. I like the dynamics between the characters, and I was really, really fond of them by the end. And the next book that we are going to chat about is A House of Root and Ruin by Erin A. Craig. This is the companion book to A Houses of Salt and Sorrow. And I remember reading House of Salt and Sorrow and enjoying it. I really, really love this book. Like, I thought it was such a gothic story. Again, sort of talking about these two books and spooky vibes. I read them all at different times. This is light, this is medium, this is definitely darker, and I would say it's probably closer to my version of horror, like what I like to read. I will say this is a very, very unassuming story. You kind of read it thinking you're getting one thing, but you get something else. So our main character, Verity, sees ghosts, and she's a really, really good painter. She winds up going to this mansion to kind of do a painting for someone, and things go from there. I will say there is a retelling element to this story, but no one says it in their reviews, so I think it's pretty much like a spoiler, but that blew my mind. I got this really, really pretty edition from Barnes & Noble, and I devoured it. We have to wait for like a couple more years for the book 3 in the series, but I hope Erin A. Craig will write more, and I have her Small Favorites book on my TBR that I would love to read. But yeah, I really, really like this one. And it was my type of horror, which just means it wasn't overly scary. But there was a retelling element that I did not expect. And I think that you guys should go in hoping for that. But I don't want to tell you what it is, because it was surprising to me when I read it. And then the next book we are going to chat about is a Rick Riordan Present book, which I'm so happy about. And that is The Last Fallen Realm by Gracie Kim. This is the final book in the Gifted Clan series. And oh my goodness, this was just delightful. This was just, again, very, very heartwarming, very, very emotional. Definitely did not end the way I thought it was going to. Like, I will say that. Like, I was like, oh my god, how is this story going to end? But overall, I really, really enjoy it. This follows Korean witches, and it's a trilogy. And I was shocked how this book ended. Like, I was really, really surprised, like, what Gracie did with these characters. But I loved it. I gave it 5 stars, and I'm so excited to see what she writes more in the future. But again, if you hadn't read anything by Rick Riordan Presents and you want to give it a shot, I would definitely check out this series, because it's definitely a new favorite of mine. And then the next book that I don't have a physical copy of, I should probably get one, is Bring Me Your Midnights by Rachel Griffin. I will attach a photo here. And this was her new standalone set in a world where basically there's 2 worlds, the mainland where people don't have magic and this island where people do have magic, and once a month you have to release your magic into the water, but that causes a lot of climate issues. So this main character on the island is set to marry a man on the mainland, but when she meets a boy that's telling her what to do with her magic when she misses releasing her magic, things go from there. And this had so many elements of a Regency romance that it just worked for me. I really like those dynamics in my fantastical reads as well, and I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. I'm really hopeful that this author writes more. I don't know what she's coming out in 2024, but I have loved all of her books. They've always made my end of the year read list. And the one thing I like about her stories is they do tackle climate change, but in like a very like slight way. I don't think it's like beats you over the head, but I like how she uses climate in her magic and how she talks about it. So the next book we're going to chat about is a ender to a series, which if you know me, I'm so fail at doing that, and that is Rain by Katherine McGee. I will touch a photo here. Remember, I started the year off with this series, and I read this my first day basically of summer break, and oh my goodness, I was so happy. This is a series that takes a lot of twists and turns. I think that if you love the setups of book 1 and how book 1 is kind of presented to you, you're not going to like the rest of the series, because book 2 turns book 1 on its head and everything sort of changes. But I liked all the characters in this story. I'm still hoping for a Jefferson spinoff. Please, 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 Katherine McGee, if anyone in Penguin watches this, know that I'm hunting for that standalone sequel always. But I just liked how this story had an ending. If you don't know anything about the series, basically what happens if George Washington had been crowned king and not president, and how would that have kind of a thing, and you follow the first American queen. And I love this series. I liked book 1. I didn't love book 1, but I think if you adored book 1, I think book 2, book 3, and book 4 might lead you astray a little bit. But I really, really liked it, and I'm so excited to see what Katherine McGee is working on next, and I definitely want to go back and read her other series, which is more like thriller. But yeah, very happy that I finally got around to completing this series in 2024. And then the next book that we are going to chat about is another sequel. Like, I am doing so good at reading sequels. Oh yeah, don't get too excited. It doesn't last that long. But I also read Defend the Dawn by Bridget Kimmerer, which is a book that I also really, really loved. This is the sequel to Defy the Night, and I really like this. Kodrick and Tessa's relationship was very different in this book. I'm going to talk about another book, like in my top reads of the year, that also had a very strained dynamic between the two main characters. It worked. And I just liked it. It's a pandemic light novel. I don't know when Bridget wrote this. I think she wrote it the year before the pandemic. So there is a pandemic element to it. But there was also like alliances and a fun world. And I always like Bridget's writing style. So yeah, that is why this book made the list. And then the next book we're going to chat about is The Sun Is Also a Star by Rick Riordan and Mark Oshiro. This is another book that just really, really worked for me. I read this at the end of last year, in like the summer, I think, and I devoured this book. I love what Rick Riordan is doing. If you're asking me who's my favorite middle grade author to date, it's always going to be Rick Riordan and Shannon Messenger, who also wrote Stella Loon. Talk about her in a minute. But I love this book. I think that Rick knew he wanted to tell Nico's story, but he knew he couldn't tell it by himself, and that's why he co-wrote it with Mark, and I think this story was delightful. It was a LGBTQ plus romance, but also a quest. You got to dive into more of the world, and you got to see more characters, but it's also definitely focused on Nico's journey and his story with Will, and I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. I would love to see Rick Riordan do this more often, but oh my god, so good. And then the next book I'm going to chat about is another early read of the year. Okay. Yeah, these are a couple early reads. So I also read Never Vacation with Your Ex by Emily Webberly and Austin Sigmund Broca. My friend Sarah got this for me at Comic-Con 2 years ago, so because I wasn't there that day. But this follows a main character that, I don't know, does it have a summary in here? Kaylee, she winds up breaking up with her boyfriend like a couple of weeks before they always go on vacation together. And then they have to kind of like be around each other and secrets are revealed. And I love this. I gave it 5 stars. I love their second chance romances. I'm a sucker for that trope, and they do it really, really well. I have loved almost all of their YA books and most of their adult books as well, so this trope just really worked for me, and I'm excited to see what they do in 2024 because one of their books sounds super intriguing. But if you're looking for a fun rom-com, I would definitely pick up this one. And then another book that I read pretty early in the year was Royal Blood by Amy Carter. I read this as an ARC, but this is basically an American girl becomes the British monarchy's worst nightmare. This is basically like royal family, but thriller-wise. So your main character is an American girl. Little does she know she's the illegitimate daughter to the King of England, and she has to kind of go there and kind of get to know this family, and a murder happens, and she becomes the prime suspect. Also, this book does have a lot of like outside elements, which I think when you do a royalty book, you should do because the publicity has a big sigh in it. But I love this. I want to read Royal Scandal coming out soon, but this one was definitely a new favorite. And the last book before I'm going to tell you guys my ranked top books of the year is Stella Loon by Shannon Messenger. I will attach a photo here. Literally do not know where my copy went. I had it. I think I gave it to one of my students last year, and I think I just let him keep it, and now I don't know what happened to it. So unfortunately, I don't think I'm gonna ever get that book back. But this is like the 8th book in the Keeper of the Lost City series, and I loved it. I thought it was great. We are ramping up to the end of this story. I don't know when that's going to come out, but I'm really excited for it. I don't want to talk too much. Just know that the war is on the horizon. The war is going to happen, and I'm nervous for all of our characters. So yeah, now let's get into my top 3 reads of the whole wide year. There is a bit of diversity, which I'm proud of myself for. So yeah, let's get into it. Number 3 is The Ballad of Never After by Stephanie Garber. I love this book. I was so happy that I read this. I read this the week after I got back from meeting her. And my friend Carrie told me that I have to read it like immediately. And oh my goodness, I love this book. This, again, sort of like Wherever It Was, Defend the Dawn had the characters in a very unique dynamic. But I loved it. It also had them kind of balancing other elements. Book 3 was also solid, but this was definitely my favorite in the whole series. And I love the fairy tale-esque elements. I love the winter vibes. It worked for me, and that is why it's on this list if you've not checked out the series. And I will say, I actually like this series more than Caraval. So if you were not the biggest fan of Caraval, I would check the series out. There is a loose connection in book 1 to Caraval, but not a big enough that I feel like you need to read it. You should probably, but you don't need to. My second spot book is Trust of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson, and oh my god, this edition is just stunning. So pretty. This is the definition of cozy fantasy, and I struggle with Brandon Sanderson's adult books, but this book worked for me, which makes me think I want to read all his other backed projects, like, because they are a little bit different than the Cosmere. But this is basically The Princess Bride turned on its head. What if Buttercup had to go on an adventure to save her prince? And it goes from there. It's set in the world. I think Hoyt is narrating this story to you. I don't know who Hoyt is, but oh my god, it was so cute. I think he wrote it for a story for his wife. There's also seafaring adventures, and there's also a little bit of magic. I loved it. This edition is stunning. I wish if you can, and it still has it in his store. I hate all the American covers, but this book is stunning. That's why it's on this list, but also because it's a good story. And the book that I have not shut up talking about this entire year. I knew going into this year, this book was probably going to be my top reads of the year list. Like, I did know that. But I Also Love the Gods by Amy Kaufman stole the cake. Every book this year that I've been reading having to do with elemental magic and seafaring came from this, because I devoured this. You know me, I am not the biggest fan of hate to more romances. This book does it perfectly. It also has an unlikely combo of characters that are forced to work together to go on a quest to save the gods from waking up. And oh my goodness, we got to the end and I was like, no, absolutely not. I do not need to wait this long. But I read this early. I have this copy, and my art copy. So, you know, I love a book when it has 3 copies. I have the regular copy, I have my Fable Crate edition, which I love, and then I have my ARC. So, yeah, I have a lot. And then I have the audiobook as well. So, please, I'm begging you, if you read none of the books on this list, please pick up Isles of the Gods. I have my other edition. Because this book worked. It had quests, it had seafaring adventures, it had unlikely cabins. There's a bookworm in here. If you are a bookworm, you need to meet Keegan. So, go read it. Oh my goodness, this video was probably so long. I should show you guys my book stacks. But let me know in the comments what was your best book of the year. I want to do a video where I read my followers' best books of the years, but I don't know how to get that to people to comment because I never really get comments. But if you have a best book of the year that you think I'm gonna like just based on the videos I just chatted about, link it below and I will try to do a video in early 2024. Stay safe, my friends, and I hope you guys are doing well, and let's start 2024 strong. Bye. We'll end 2023 strong so we can start 2024 strong. And I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.